leaders have defied conventions and achieved remarkable milestones in various domains. Hello and welcome to Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. With us on the show today is Karishma Mehta, the visionary founder of Humans of Bombay. Through heartfelt narratives and a keen passion for storytelling, Karishma Mehta has turned Humans of Bombay into a global phenomenon. Let's take a look at where it began.
Karishma Mehta embarked on her journey by founding the social platform Humans of Bombay. Through this, she shared compelling stories connecting people on a profound level. Her milestones include expanding the platform's reach globally, reaching millions with impactful narratives. Beyond digital storytelling, she initiated impactful community projects, leaving a lasting mark.
Welcome to Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. Before we deep dive into this conversation, we'll start with a rapid fire round.
Absolutely, and welcome to Humans of Bombay.
Thank you.
Lovely
so
to
much.
have you.
But you know, today I'm sitting on your chair and you're on the other side. How does it feel?
Feels good. I know what it's like to be there. There's pressure, but today it's relaxed. I gravitated towards that chair, and I was told, no, you can't sit there today.
So let's begin. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
If you could time travel, which era would you visit?
It was simpler before smartphones. I'd just go back.
If you could have a dinner conversation with any historical figure, who would that be and why?
Winston Churchill. I've
yes.
always said that because I'm a student of history and I find him extremely fascinating. So I would love to have a chat.
Which book are you currently reading?
I'm reading Anupam Kher's autobiography.
Your go-to comfort food?
Pasta. And like if I've like had a bad day, I feel I gravitate towards pasta.
Early bird or night owl?
I'm very early bird.
Yeah?
How
early?
I wake up between 5:36.
That is so good. Share a fun fact or hobby that people might not know about you.
I cook a lot. I think people know that though. But I'm also obsessed with cricket. I think people know that also. But yeah, I'm obsessive about cricket.
Work from home or work from office?
Work from office.
Top 3 essentials for a successful storyteller.
Listening. It is so underrated to just listen. Being as raw and authentic as possible. I feel like everything is too scripted. Keeping it the way it is sometimes, uncut, is a good story. It makes for a real story. And I think the third thing of being a good storyteller is obviously asking the right questions.
So Karishma, now that we are talking about storytelling and you have clearly flipped the narrative when it comes to the style of storytelling, we are all hooked to the stories of Humans of Bombay. What inspired you to start Humans of Bombay?
We've been inspired by Humans of New York. I was in college when I stumbled upon the Humans of New York page. It was just on Facebook. That time even Instagram wasn't a thing. And I remember reading for hours. And you know, when you're in college and there's so many distractions, even in terms of, you know, what was available online then, to be able to read something for hours and feel something, I felt like that was very special. I looked it up and nothing like that was here in Bombay. And Bombay is such a complex society, right? There are people from all walks of life. You have billionaire homes, you have one of the largest slums in Asia. It's a very complex society where a lot of different people operate and seemingly mingle together, and I found that very interesting from the very beginning. So I wanted to tell the story. While we've moved from just Bombay narratives to a pan-India narrative, it's still special. Very quickly, it became popular, right? So for me, I think I really just wanted to tell stories. I didn't foresee it becoming the media house that we're en route to becoming right now. I think that storytelling will always remain the crux of everything that we do, whether it's, for now, me interviewing some of the best minds in the country, even globally. It's still essentially, we want to tell your story. For any successful business or successful company, your values need to be rock solid. And ours rest very firmly on the fact that we tell stories and we tell them well.
What were the challenges back then, and how big or small was your team back in the day when you started? Because now, of course,
Yeah.
you have a full-fledged setup.
It was just me. I had a photographer with me to like just come along, a set of photographers to come along with me. But I would write because I've always written. So I've never done any professional course in writing or journalism, but I've written for as long as I remember. I'm an avid reader, and I've always wanted to be an author. I think J.K. Rowling changed my life. Like when I figured out that, oh my God, the author of Harry Potter is a woman, I was mind blown. I was like, okay, this is a possibility for me. So I could write through Humans of Bombay, and I think that's what kept me so interested, right? Like, how can I tell your story and do justice to it in a world where, you know, people don't read that often. And it was important to me that those narratives compelled people, that this is a story you must read. It was very unstructured. I've worked out of every Starbucks in the city. We didn't have an office for at least 2-3 years. So it was about working out of cafes. It was about working out of anywhere really that I could sit my laptop and have coffee and write. And then of course we were on the streets speaking with people. Challenges were convincing people that that this is a business. Like we're creating something special. You know, we're changing the way stories are perceived, the way a story is told. And there were other challenges. Of course, in the beginning, people also don't necessarily enjoy being stopped on the street and saying, hey, do you want to talk to me? And they're just like, it's Bombay. It's one of the busiest cities in the world.
Right.
People don't want to be disturbed. But like, we found great people who I've had conversations with complete strangers for us up to an hour on the streets of Bombay. It's been a journey. I wouldn't call it challenges necessarily.
What for you have been the most special stories that have touched you as a person?
I think that when you're listening to somebody's story so intimately, you end up learning something from them, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's a normal person. So in terms of which of the stories that have impacted me, I think a little bit of everyone, right? Like, so I remember just when we started, I had interviewed somebody, an older woman who had lost her husband, who was mute, and he also couldn't hear. And she went on to speak about how for like approximately 20 years before he passed away, she also basically stopped talking. Not because it was a conscious choice, but she was like, I was just so used to communicating in sign language to him that I didn't even feel the need to just communicate. And she's like, I really miss him terribly, and in every lifetime I would just choose him. And I remember thinking, wow, you know, a love like this also exists. We recently interviewed with Anupam Kher sir, and he was talking about how he has slept on the railway station of Bombay, and he had only had a 4-hour gap to sleep between the last train and the first train in the morning. And he wrote a letter to his grandfather saying that this city has not treated me well, I want to come back. And he said, his grandfather said, bhiga hua insan barish se nahi darta. So you're already there. And at that point in my life, I felt like it was the weirdest feeling. I felt like the universe has chosen this person to give me a message. And that happens so often, where I'm like, I really needed to hear that. You don't feel alone. Like, we've featured people who have had tremendous struggles, and still they'll find a few 100 people in the comments who are like, I'm going through the same thing, or I've been through the same thing. And this is my journey, and I hope it helps you.
Yeah. And while I understand that you talk to people from all walks of life, and that is the very idea behind Humans of Bombay, what really is the screening process like of those who are featured on your page?
So we're in a place now where we obviously have a lot of people reaching out with their stories, or stories of their mother, their sister, their neighbor. It depends, right? So it's a bit of both. We have 2 curators in our team who basically all day are just curating stories from either people who've reached out to us or things that they're seeing on the internet. They pick up conversations, they pick up certain hashtags, they pick up certain narratives, and this can be somebody who has maybe 1,000 followers, but we've stumbled upon this particular post and been like, oh, this person has such an interesting journey, we should talk about it.
Karishma, there is so much to talk about, but we have to slip into a very short commercial break right now. So we'll continue with this on the other side. And for all our viewers watching right now, you're watching Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. We are in conversation with Karishma Mehta. Do stay tuned.
So one of my most special stories, the one I really enjoyed reading, writing, hearing about was this woman. She's from Delhi and she was wearing these aviators and she was in the middle of the street, and we were trying to ask her about her story, about her life, and she said, why are you asking all these questions, come dance with me. And that's her story, and I think that it's amazing, she's amazing.
Welcome back. You're watching Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. We are in conversation with Karishma Mehta. And you know, Karishma, while we can go on talking about so many stories that touch our lives, for you, Karishma Mehta, who are you first, a storyteller or an entrepreneur?
I think I'm a storyteller. I think because I'm a storyteller, I could be an entrepreneur. So at the root, at the cusp of it, I'm definitely a storyteller first.
But you know, they say that with great power comes great responsibility, obviously, and you have seen that growth trajectory of the likes and the followers increasing. Today, what do you think is the responsibility that rests on your shoulders when you know that you are a part of, or probably in a sense, shaping a certain narrative?
I think the responsibility is multifold. It's not ever unilateral. It's important to tell the story right, but it's also important to tell different stories that certain people may not agree with. It's also really important to tell the story as real and as authentic as possible, right? Because now this story is no longer just, we're a medium. It's going out to millions of people who are going to perceive it in some way or the other. So to get it as true to core as possible is a large responsibility. I also have a responsibility towards my team, who has been rock solid in building the so many different things that we're building.
But you know, Karishma, it's one thing to chase your passion, and it is another to turn your passion into a profitable venture. How did you structure Humans of Bombay to bring it to the levels of profitability that it is?
You know, having a passion is so important in terms of you find your purpose and this is what I want to do. You enjoy what you do, you found it. How do you sustain that? How do you make sure that everybody who's working on this passion, clearly people are working because they believe in the brand, they believe in the vision, they need to be happy, they need to be fulfilled. I think the business of storytelling, which we have a very popular newspaper, a newsletter, where we share some of our most interesting campaigns that we've run. I still remember we did a campaign with Stay Free, where it was a narrative of a brother and a sister, where the brother's taking care of the sister or being extra mindful during her period. And all of these are real, authentic stories of people. And I remember reading the comments. There were 2,000-3,000 comments. And there were parents who were saying, I'm showing this to my son. I'm showing this to my friend, you know. And I think that the ability to mix really impactful brand campaigns with real, authentic stories that actually shape a certain narrative is important. You have actors on billboards, you have actors or celebrities on magazine covers, but it's an everyday narrative where you know that this is actually a true story is so impactful. And I think we've managed to do that. Outside of that, we're finally getting offline. We're starting events. The show is obviously a large part of it. Turning it into a profitable business wasn't an option. It was a necessity. It was a necessity to keep the storytelling narrative alive, to look after the 40 people and hundreds of freelancers across India who work with us to create content with us.
You know, in life, and such is life, where there are highs, there are lows, where there's success, there is also failure. People put you up the pedestal, they bring you down. How do you deal with the lows?
So I think I've said this before. I'm very spiritual as a person, and in very difficult times I've often understood that it's best to go inwards and reflect. This is my choice. I've made a choice to be in the public domain. I've made a choice to be answerable and to be held accountable for the very many perceptions that people may have on the internet. That's the internet for you. So that responsibility is mine. How I choose to deal when, like you said, there's a pedestal, but then there are days when you're pulled down to rock bottom. I've hit rock bottom, and I knew then that I need to listen, I need to understand, I need to just get the taste of why it is what's going on is happening. And I think when I took the time to go inwards, I realized that even on the worst of days, there is a reason. I may not even understand the reason today, but I know that at some point I will. And outside of that, I just want to really continue doing good work. And I don't think when you're doing something that you love, a particular incident cannot define the journey. Now that can even be with something that's insanely successful, right? Like if you think of some of the interviews that we've done, some of the people that we've gotten to speak with, that's a high. But that also doesn't define me. And the low also does not define me. I think that sense of balance, that it is always going to be up and down, I have to find my equilibrium, is what helps me. So you learn not to take both personally. You learn not to take both too seriously, because it's time. It has to be up and down. That means you're alive. If it's a flat line, you're effectively dead. And I think that's how I deal with the lows, the same way I deal with the highs.
Yeah. You know, what I tell myself on the tough days is that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And that's the way you deal with it. But, you know, Karishma, you must describe for our viewers and all those watching you today the stories of humans of Bombay that have made an impact on the lives of people.
Absolutely. I think that those stories sometimes still give me goosebumps when I think about it. I've spoken a lot about Ali Bhai. It's all over the internet. But there's another one where her name is Anita ji. She was from a little village, a little far away from UP. She basically kept reproducing till she had 5 daughters. And it was because we want the son. Pregnant for the 6th time. And the husband, in the drunken state, slit open her stomach to check the gender of the baby. Turns out it was a boy, but didn't survive. And now she was in the hospital. And this case blew up online, and I was like, we have to reach out to her, because she also has 5 very young girls to look after. And now the husband has been shipped to jail. We reached out, we told her story, and we raised 25 lakhs for her and her daughters. A few days after, when she realized that this is what we've done, her brother called our head of content, Kirti Shri, and said, "Aapke team ka photo chahiye hame." So she said, "Why?" He's like, "Kyunki aap hamare liye aap hi bhagwan ho." Because their life changed. The future of these 5 girls, I'm not saying that it would last a lifetime, but at least they would still stay in school. At least their education would be looked after. And in such a distressing environment where you've been through this ordeal, which you and me can't even relate to. You and me, even if you hear the story, can't understand the pain a woman goes through like that. She saw that the world came together to help her. How do you how do you put a price to that? Nothing. No story, no interview, no amount of success will give you that feeling that I gave hope, we gave hope collectively as a community to someone who was hopeless.
How does technology empower women to challenge and shatter traditional gender norms according to you, and empower women to take control of their lives?
How does technology empower women in every possible way? I think that you can express yourself, you can be your true self, the way you want to project it because of technology. I'm able to actually tell stories today from the remotest part of India because there is technology. How else would we connect to somebody like Anita ji?
Yeah.
Would not happen, right?
Yeah.
The impact and the penetration is tremendous, and now that India is at this cusp, right, where almost everybody will be digitally connected over the next decade, I think that we're the country to look out for, and technology plays a huge role in it.
Absolutely. On that note, Karishma, as we come to the end of this show, what's your message to the younger generation today, both as a storyteller, as a thinker, and I'd say the third angle, which is being an entrepreneur?
On all three, I'm going to give a very blanket piece of advice, is that I just try to be as kind as possible, and that is so understated again, and that does not mean that you have to go out of your way and do anything. It's just the little things which I think the world needs more of. And while I can give you entrepreneurial advice, you'll find 10,000 such videos and subject matter experts to give you that advice. But as somebody who's been on both sides of the spectrum, I think being kind goes a long way. So that would be my advice.
On that note, we must take a selfie.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. It's also really important to tell the story as real and as authentic as possible, right? Because now this story is no longer just, we're a medium. It's going out to millions of people who are going to perceive it in some way or the other. So to get it as true to core as possible is a large responsibility. I also have a responsibility towards my team, who has been rock solid in building the so many different things that we're building.
On that note, we must say that in the realm of words, images and emotions, storytelling has the power to transport us to a distant world and ignite imagination. Karishma's story is one such example. We'll be back next week with yet another incredible story. Until then, stay tuned to Tecno Phantom V-Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. Thank you so much for watching.